Shalom Makim. It's a high spirit wind Judah of the GMS Mississippi camp, giving all honor and glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bahashemi Havashai Bahashem Kodash. I also want to give double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who well. Peace and blessings, health and wellness to the house of David the elect. All right, it was a high spirit wind Judah. And today I want to go into a live stream entitled Abraham the Patriarch. Abraham, patriarch. All right, and if you look at the word patriarch, it means, paraphrasing, the father of a particular tribe or a race. All right, and Abraham was definitely the father of a race of people, of the human race. All right, however you want to say it, you know, because he was the father of Abraham. I mean, he was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob, and Jacob was the father to the 12 patriarchs, in which we descend from. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to go into Abraham the patriarch is to go into the wealth and that he had, and the way that the Most High had Middle Eastern men set up. All right, because we think about a prince. All right, we think about prince and royalty, we instantly think of a palace. We think of the Western way, but there was a way that he had his men set up in the East. How men of the East, all right, were set up, and they have parallels, all right, to certain historical points in American history, and I'll get to that later. All right, but when you go into the book of Genesis, and it goes into Abraham and, you know, what he had, all right, and it was at a particular point that the Canaanites were at war with each other, like the kings of Sodom, all right, they were at war with each other, and within that war, all right, Lot, Abraham's nephew, was kidnapped, all right, within these different battles, all right, Lot's nephew was kidnapped, and Abraham, all right, being basically a prince, a Eastern prince, it said that in the scriptures that he had 318 servants born in his house, roughly paraphrasing, trained to fight. So just imagine a man in the East, all right, having 318 servants born in his house who were trained to fight, and they went and got Lot, which was his nephew, man. All right. So Abraham men got busy, man. See, we have to use our vision, our imagination to time travel, man, and understand place and context. All right. So Abraham had wealth. All right. He had land in which he divided with his son. Well, you know, basically divided with his nephew Lot. All right, because the servants got into it over the boundary of the land and all that, because the cattle was crossing over the boundaries. But that's why you had landmarks in the ancient world. All right, but the point was, just imagine a man having 318 servants. All right, because a servant could be anything. A servant could be an agricultural servant. It could be bodyguards, but they'll just be called servants. As opposed to today, there's different names per the position that you serve in. Okay, but Abraham had 318 servants, man. So he had an army. He had an army in the ancient world. Men that have stature, all right, they had an army, all right. But if you want to understand the wealth that Abraham had, all right, in that particular time, and who he was likened to today, Abraham, and I speak out of my own opinion, but Abraham was like a plantation owner now, or in the 1700s, all right? The way the Most High had his men set, the way the Most High had his men set up in the East was like how America had plantation owners in the West, all right? Because depending on what level of a, you might have had 200, 300 servants. You may have had acres full of basically enslaved jakes. All right. So with men like Job, Abraham, all right, Isaac, Jacob, all right, their wealth was likened to a plantation owner in the South. All right, because once again, you go back to the 1700s, the 1800s, man. Esau was set up, man, to the point where the elites had to go to war with him to get him to release his slaves to get them to work up in the East Coast in the factories, man. But you have to remember, the Civil War was basically to take that power away from Esau down south. But the way the Most High had the Patriarch set up, and men of stature in the East was likened to a plantation owner in the 18th century, the 19th century, okay? Because the South at that time agriculturally was similar to the East, all right? It was more like an agrarian society, just like the East, all right? So instead of having, all right, actual kings and palaces, you was more like an agrarian king, okay? Instead of having like palaces and, you know, no, you was more like on a big house. You was inside of a big house, man, with a lot of land, all right? You was a country king. That's why the Spirit helped me to say they're like plantation owners, man. You know, and we think of plantation owners, of course we think of evil, but it's evil because they had us in slavery and what they did to us. But how they were set up, the men in the 17th century America, 18th century America, they were like patriarchs, man. Now the real patriarchs of Edom was like, you know, the bankers, all right? But these men, they were so prominent that in the West, that if they never outlawed the institution of slavery, we would still be slaves for their descendants. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? The men of the East, all right, were like plantation owners in the South, all right, in the 18th century, 17th century, all right, 19th century, okay? How they were set up like country kings, all right, because in the South, during the slavery, Esau was set up like a country king in the South. He was a country king. Abraham was like a country king. Men of the East, they were country kings, man. All right? There was agrarian kings, man. All right? To the point where, like I said, they never outlawed the institution of slavery. All right, we'll still be working for their descendants right now. All right, they had so much power in being patriarchs in the South, per se, that we still have their last name to this day. All right? So if you want to understand wealth and how the Most High had his men set up in the East, he had his men set up in the East, like how plantation owners were set up in the South. They were like agrarian kings, man. Like I said, to the point where we still have their last name to this day. We're still classified as their property to this day. And if they never outlawed the institution of slavery in the South, we would still be working for their descendants to this day with their last name to this day. Because the legacy of slavery in the institution of slavery, whether it's in the East or an American construct, your descendants, your progeny inherits your wealth, including your slaves. Just like in the East, just like in the Levitical law, the 25th chapter. All right, if you own slaves that are of another nation, they never get set free. They get inherited by your descendants. So that's what was going on in the South. Okay? They really took the Eastern way and applied it to themselves. All right? But that's, if you look at plantation owners in the South, all right, there were millionaires, billionaires, all right? Because of cotton, because of cash crops, all right? That's how the Most High had Job set up, like a plantation owner. He had Abraham, the patriarchs, men of the East, country kings, man. You had land, you had wealth, you had cattle, you had servants. That's the Eastern royalty, man. And of course, when we evolved as a power and we became a nation and Jake desired to have a king, all right? It was more like palace oriented now, for lack of better words, man. All right? But all because they didn't have a crown on their head, that doesn't mean they weren't kings and they weren't princes. All right? Like the Romans, they have crowns on their head, the Roman emperors, but they were still kings and princes, man. Okay? Same thing with us, man. But conversely, all right, the promise that was given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through bloodline, we're actually noblemen, biologically speaking, because of the promise that was given to our forefather, started with Abraham, all right? Because of the Levitical law and because of the law of bloodline and inheritance, we're still descendants of their wills, so to speak. You see, we're still heirs. We're heirs of that promise. So although because of captivity, we're the property of Esau, Edom, right? And their wealth was so prominent and their power was so impactful that we still have their last name to this day, all right? And on the other end of that spectrum, the promise that was given to our forefather Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all right, it was so impactful that because we're bloodline descendants of them, we're actually kings and princesses, all right? And we're heirs of the incoming promise, man. All right? Yeah, but the Most High had his men, the men of the East, what they call the Middle East. They like amongst Ishmael, they call it like an Emirates or the Emirs, or the Emirates. They're basically desert kings. You see? In the East, you're more like a desert king, a country king, a desert king. All right? In the South, like a country king. All right? But that's how the Most High had his men set up, man. All right? But when I thought about that and I envisioned it, I was like, man, that's more like, that's how it was in the South during the 1800s. A plantation owner was nothing but a country king. He was set up like a man in the East, without the palace, you know, without the big palace, but his palace was that big plantation house, man. And we still have those plantation houses in Mississippi that was built by enslaved Jakes, man, called antebellum homes. Ante means before, bello goes back to bellicose, I think, which means war. Before the war, before the Civil War. So these were homes built before the Civil War by our people. All right? Because we weren't just out there picking cotton. Okay? Well, basically, just to give an illustration of the culture we had and the way the Most High had men set up, men of the East, like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Job. These are basically country kings, man. All right? Desert kings. Ishmael was a desert king. That's why in one description of Ishmael in the scriptures, it said that they had their camels dipped in gold. They had their camels draped in gold, man. That was a characteristic that Ishmael had, a lot. A characteristic that Ishmael had was that he had his camels dripped in gold, man. All right, that's a royal mindset. And Ishmael is still royal, because if you think about it, he's the son of who? Abraham. Abraham had Isaac and Ishmael. So Ishmael is still royalty. You know, just how Esau likes chicken. Like Esau likes chicken and watermelon. You know why? Because he's the son of Isaac. You know, they're heathen, but they still came from Abraham. You see what I'm saying? See, I stay in the South. So I know Esau likes chicken and watermelon. There's a farmer's market. Man, Esau buy more watermelon than Jacob. Esau be at Buffalo Wild Wings more than Jacob. But like a brother brought out, man, Esau, he's still basically the son of Jacob, man. He's still a son of an Israelites. You know, he's still a Hebrew. There we go. There we go. He's a Hebrew. Okay? But that's a desert. Like Ishmael was a desert king, man. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, those were desert kings, country kings, shepherd kings. This was the heathen called us shepherd kings, man. One of the scriptures, the water brother, the waters of Quan. Hey, shalom to you, brother. How about my shop? That's brakatah, bro. But see what country kings, man. That's why Jake, a description of a Hebrew, Jake got them rings, all them fucking rings on their fingers. They got gold rings, they got hoop earrings, they had them hoop earrings, turbans. See, Jake obsessed with these fitted caps here in America. Before we got Hellenized, all right, we had them turbans, man. Even when we reigned as the Moors in Europe, when we had them turbans, them hoop earrings, and we had our shiny bronze skin, all right, of different hues, of course, but that kicky hair. See, we weren't ashamed of it. See, now Jake is not ashamed of it, but for a long time, Jake was ashamed of that kicky hair. Jake was ashamed of dark skin. All right, Jake was ashamed of that broad nose and them big eyes, because Esau made a caricature of those royal traits, man. All right? Nah, we're country. We're them country kings, man. That's the I got that from the elder brother Kazaki Allah, man. There we go. It says, So like if I mispronounced it, it says translated by some as shepherd kings, but really means rulers of foreign lands. All right, rulers of foreign lands, man. But we'll call shepherd kings, man. And I can't help but think of Jake in the South, right? Like Jake is really from the rural area in the South with these big cars and these big rims, their own horses. You know, they still got that royal trait. But instead of having like Ferraris and Bugattis, like inner city Jake from the big cities, they got money. Now they them country boys with them big cars, you know, big rims. Jake used to have spinning rims. Yeah, you a fucking country king, man. You know, like Jake down south, you might got an uncle that got land, that got horses. You see, we're them boys, man. But like I said, on the flip side, in our captivity, Esau was really living like a man of the East. In the South, Esau was like a man of the East. He was a country king. He was a shepherd king. So he had all that fucking land, acres and acres of land. And he had his servants in the land picking cotton. Then he had what? His bad witches, his housewives. You know, he had a duty for everybody. He had service for everything, man. Shine his shoes, shave his beard. He was a country fucking king. He was a shepherd king. Really, he got that from us, man. And the kingdom is gonna flip. And the kingdom is gonna flip. And we're gonna have palaces and all that. But in the kingdom, Karl Malone lived like a shepherd king. Yeah, because he got that ranch, right? And I'm gonna tell you, man, down south, I'm from Mississippi, but the motherfucking Edomites in Texas, man, they got a different mentality, that conservative old way mentality. In Mississippi, got the conservative old way mentality, but they really got a ruling class mentality. It doesn't work in our favor, but them niggas got a ruling class mentality. But yeah, Karl Malone was a shepherd king, man. Or he lived like a shepherd king. There was another man that I read about years ago. He quit the NFL, or he left the NFL just to really be on a ranch. And he lived like a reclusive life, a socially reclusive life. But he basically quit. Like, he never embraced the wealth of, you know, having these cars and nice houses. And he moved in the country, had a ranch, and he would have had his cowboy hat, and he was good. You know, I forget his name. I wasn't really in the sports world like this a lot, but you know, it's shepherd kings, man. See, this grid wants you to basically be like a privileged slave and thinking you like living like a king, like a city boy, you know, but you don't own nothing. See, shepherd kings they understand the power of land, and they understand the power of service and all those things, and the power of cash crops. But you're not in the city, you know, because you have to think. Even Abraham, he was considered a country boy, so to speak, because he left Babylon. So the cities existed, great cities existed, but he was on the outskirts, living like royalty. There were cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, but Abraham was on the outskirts. Lot was on the outskirts. You see, Isaac, Jacob, there were cities built up back then, prominent cities, man. But they were on the outskirts, man. But nah, that's the nature of the Most High's boys, man, his men. That's his bloodline descending on the planet Earth, man. Them country kings, them shepherd kings, man. But like I said, Esau lived like a damn shepherd king in the 1800s, and he still does that to this day in the South. And they got pride. They proud about it. That's what them Confederate flags was back. The Confederate flags was about them having their wealth and their service in the South, as opposed to the service being translated to the North. Yeah, them city kings, the bankers, they basically won the war and took the slaves. Because when you win the war, you take the slaves. Either you take the people as slaves, or hell, you take the slaves. So they won the war and took the slaves, man. Because you really think the Civil War was about some compassionate Edomites that want to free us? They hated to see us free? Nah, it was a transfer of service, because whoever gonna have the service gonna come into power. They need a service to work in those factories, man. But nah, there was them country kings in the Confederate Army, all right, fight for their servants, man. Hey, but I gotta tap in, man. Do my speaking of service, I gotta do my thing. You know how it goes. I hope you brothers and sisters are edified. I hope this lesson was insightful. Ate the water for chiming in. All right, until the next time, shalom.